the stop.
My goodness, what a save!
What a save! What a glove save there by...
What a stop! Looked like a sure goal.
You talk about an A+ save and maybe the save of the night.
Welcome to the Goalie Science Podcast, the podcast where we try to bridge the gap between goaltending science and peak performance. I'm your host, Dr. Jamie Phillips, a physical therapist and goalie performance specialist. I'm joined as always by Dr. Ben Cernick and goalie coach Derek Fujian. Whether you're at home, at the rink, or in the car, grab a cup of your favorite beverage and let's drop the puck on this week's episode.
Welcome to Goalie Science, the podcast that is still figuring out its identity. At 100 episodes, here we are, folks. We've done it. I'm joined by Jamie Phillips and the most aggressive man in the world, Derek Fujian.
Is it aggressive or is it just, you guys are like doctor of physiotherapy, it's doctor of chiropractor and advanced analytics. And I think I'm just the doctor of common sense. I think that's the new handle and the new intro.
You are the doctor of Seuss.
That was the funniest thing you've ever said.
Did you know it was supposed to be pronounced Cerise?
That'd be rude.
Everything.
So sorry for knowing things.
You know what you are? You are like every crazed Canadian hockey fan who cannot stand the fact that that there are other countries that play hockey and get good hockey occasionally.
The thing that I think blows my mind is like people will be so upset that, any team in Canada, obviously, Canada, you don't want to lose. Losing's bad. But acting like they lost to a bunch of terrible hockey teams. Like there's 15 guys on Latvia who play in the CHL. Like you're not playing against a bunch of random people. Like those are a bunch of very good hockey players on that Latvian team.
Also, give a little bit of context, because if somebody's not listening to this in primetime live viewing, we're talking about the Canadian public going absolutely bonkers because Canada lost to Latvia in the World Juniors.
In a shootout.
In a shootout. That went 16 shooters and one goal only. And I mean, I haven't heard any criticism of the 17-year-old undrafted Jack Vankovic. But I'm sure there is. I'm sure in this country, there's people out there blaming him because
I actually
been in a shootout.
I haven't heard this typical holiday rhetoric of Canadian goaltending is broken because Canada's given up 2 goals in 2 games so far. I mean, they're currently playing Germany at the moment, so we'll see how the conversation continues. But it's actually just a really good game to watch. The Latvian goalie was good. I actually thought what I liked the most about the Latvian goalie was he didn't spend too much time in his RVH, which is the most uncharacteristic thing of a Latvian goalie in a very long time. And I just remember watching, I was like, oh, good reads. Great reads. And you know what? And he was lights out in the shootout. And Canadians goalie, I can't pronounce his name, Ivankovic.
Ivankovic.
Okay.
Jack the goalie.
Hey, Jack the Ripper was pretty solid in the game. Shootout looked really good. That goal that went in was an absolute snipe. So I don't know why everyone's so mad.
Well, they lost. If it makes anyone feel better, I actually saw like a lot of complaints that the U.S. team took bad goalies this time around. How do you say that?
How do you say Trey August? So Michigan State is currently playing 10 minutes away from me right now at the GLI. And the reason I didn't stay to watch Michigan State play was because Augustine's not there. Like, I have no invested interest unless very good goalies are playing, or Michigan Tech. And they did lose today in shootout or in overtime, but whatever.
Yeah, anyways, if there are people who are gonna complain about Trey Augustine and Hampton Slukinski, and I think is it still Sam Hillebrand who's the third? Like it's just like we've like always the media, the job and people's job on the internet is to stir up conversation and engagement, and sometimes that stems from wrong takes. So
well.
Anyways, know about Jamie or Derek.
Nothing that we have never had any wrong takes in 100 current episodes, which is pretty cool. Congratulations, Ben. Boosh, you came in right at the very end to hop on our coattails.
This guy am coattails, yeah. I think I'm an 11%er or something like that. Like I've been on for maybe 11 of the 100. But I mean, those are definitely the most entertaining.
Anyways, today's episode.
Well, we were going there. Someone said do a highlight, like cut out the best parts and make like a compilation, and that would have been way too much work.
Yeah,
So we decided to outsource all of our hard work to you, the listeners, to send comments and actually to send questions. I said that you could also throw in some quick shoutouts if you wanted to, but basically, we're here. Booge cracked open a beer. I cracked open a glass of wine, not in a wine glass. Ben,
this is a diet A&W.
hey, Ben's got a diet A&W because he had too many Christmas cookies and was watching his figure. And we are going to answer some of your questions. Just have a conversation. I know a lot of people have said they like when we just talk the talk sometimes and just be goalie coaches and laugh. So let's pop in with the first question on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. Otherwise, you'll hear it pop up right now.
Hey Jamie, I've seen a lot of differences in stances in terms of depth and shot threat. Some people play more upright and more relaxed high stance, but when the play is closer, guys are playing in a more ready, safe stance, and they're much lower. I was wondering if you could explain this to me. Thank you.
That was, I guess, addressed to me. So I guess I'll start off first. I think, well, actually, one of the things I don't want to say it's low hanging fruit, but right now, I don't know if it's the rhetoric on the internet or just the questions I seem to be getting, but I think everyone's kind of pointing the finger at stance being the issue on goals, when a lot of times it's, I don't want to say bad goaltending, but goalies are just getting beat on shots. Like there's not bad goal, they're just getting beat. Whether it's a bad goaltending or it's a good shot or a good play, it's always, you see a lot of so-and-so's too high in their stance, so-and-so's too low in their stance. This is the problem killing goalies, is their stance. And I think, yes, there's a time for a high stance. Yes, there's a time for a more ready stance. But I think that my opinion is that always blaming it is kind of an issue. Now, when do you use it? I don't really have like a guideline. I typically tell goalies that when the puck's above the top of the circle, it's okay to be in a highish stance unless that player's coming in with no danger. Anytime that puck's below the top of the circle, probably want to be in a little bit more ready stance just because that puck's a bit more dangerous and you have less time. I don't get into the weeds of stance position unless we're talking about dealing with traffic and in zone movement. But that's my take on stance.
I think other than the RBH, I think the second most overcoached, overthought, overdigested thing is goalie stances, and goalie coaches across the world spend way too much time trying to fix stances that don't need to be fixed. And yeah, you know what? Like you probably have 2 or 3, maybe 4 stances that you'll use multiple times in a game. You're dealing with traffic or pucks from the perimeter or different power play setups. But the best stance is the one that you can be active in. And that's really the proper answer, is like, if you can be in a tall stance, and for people listening, I'm doing quotation marks for your tall stance, and still react into a butterfly, then it's just an active stance. And as the puck gets a little bit closer, yeah, maybe you get a little bit lower, like on a breakaway. But there's no single stance. I think that's something that we have to kind of understand, is like changing our glove and spending 5 hours just tinkering with the proper angle of your glove and your stance is the biggest waste of time. Please stop doing that.
Yeah, I think it just like I agree with everything. We start our little holiday camp we have this week, and like the first day we do our classroom session, and a big part of it's talking about stance, and everyone plug their ears who's coming to camp tomorrow. But I show 4 or 5 different stances of different goalies in college and the NHL, and they all look really different. And I get the kids to pick things out that they like and dislike about every one of the stances. And then at the very end, I say, okay, every stance is right. You just picked out a million things you liked and didn't like, but they're all good because they work for those goalies. Those goalies can move out of the stance. They're comfortable in the stance. They're making saves in that stance. High stances were just like another trend. It just started because have you ever tried to play a power play in a low stance for 2 minutes straight? Like, how exhausting is that? It's so this high stance emerged as like a risk profile assessment. okay, the puck is not in a dangerous shooting position. I don't need to be in this tiring, full body muscle engaged stance, which can be for a goalie draining, right? Like ask a goalie to stand in their quote unquote lower active stance and then see how long before their legs start burning, right?
I think what we're just to simplify or like kind of like streamline what we're talking about is like when we say tall stance or low stance, we're talking like to me, I'm automatically thinking of like how wide the guy's feet are. Same thing with people listening. Yeah, it's like we're like I call it the base, like narrow base or active base or whatever, like different words, whatever. But it's like the low stance would be like a wide base. The tall stance would be like a narrow base. So like that's kind of, and at least I've heard what you're talking about, Ben.
Yeah, and like I have a really good example of it. I actually just put it into the presentation or the classroom session we do at camp tomorrow. It's like a behind the shooter camera angle from that Latvia Canada shootout. And Jamie, I really like the Latvian goalie Telberg's game as well. I think he's fun to watch for a lot of reasons, but on the shootout, you can see him go through those three stance positions really obviously. He's got really long legs, so there it makes sense. Like that base is really obvious when you have a goalie with long legs. And like when the player is just entering over the blue line, his feet are really close together. He's in that very tall stance. That player gets to the top of the circle, like Jamie said, he starts riding out probably more into what we'd call that active stance. Player gets below the slot, and he's in that what we call probably that typical breakaway wider stance, where you have to be really quick to snap into that butterfly or go laterally. And I think that's a really good example of like stances just applied to scenarios that make sense for you as the goalie. So like how wide you want to play comes down to the environment around you and what you are capable of doing. And I don't think it needs to be more than that, does it? Won't play with your feet at your shoulders all the time is maybe probably an okay blanket statement. Unless you could just from that position, then you're probably fine.
It just was you said it right at the end. Can you move and can you stop pucks from that position? Are you comfortable? And adding to the list of things that we like to throw at goalies to overcomplicate, the stance is easily adapted and changed. And I don't love the idea, the concept of presenting big to the shooter all the time. It's more about I don't if you present big but you can't move, that doesn't help anyone. But if you are when whatever's comfortable and you can track the pucks and you move well, that's great. And it's funny because I see a lot of clips or goalies will come and we'll talk and do radio breakdown. They're like, I was in my call stance or I wasn't in my ready stance. It's like, it wasn't that. You actually just weren't ready to stop the puck. Like you weren't focused on the puck. The player walked in the zone and took a step to the middle and you were not ready for that shot. Doesn't matter what stance you were in, you weren't ready. You can be in a taller stance and be ready. You can be in a low stance and not be ready at all. It's just you weren't focused on the puck, and that's the issue, not the stance. And it's that's why I don't like, we talk about overcomplicating things, and I've tried to not to overcomplicate things. My goalies be really simple. But you think about the laundry list of things that go through a goalie's brain consciously and subconsciously as a player enters the zone. The player is walking across the blue, and all of a sudden it's like, I got to be tall, I got to be tall, I got to be tall, I got to be narrow, and they shoot. Yeah, no wonder you're getting beat because you're thinking about how tall your stance is and not about where the puck's going. And that's my opinion on stance. So I usually, if it's not an issue, I just let the goalies play. Usually, honestly, the biggest issue I see is goalies just love to get too wide and then they get locked in. That's typically the main stance issue. The glove positioning thing, I don't see it very often. The Ben Scrivens isn't there, although one of my goalies kind of likes it and we've been working away from it. But hey, I don't care as long as you stop the puck. There's a lot of other things that we can work on that are more important. Next question.
We've already overcomplicated that answer, so yeah, let's move on.
I'll redo this one.
Hey guys, do you know of any NHL goalies that have weird superstitions? Thanks a lot. Love the podcast.
NHL goalies with weird superstitions.
Well, I remember the big story, since we're on the World Junior topic. I don't even know if I'm allowed to say his name if it ruins the algorithm, but former Philadelphia Flyer goalie, now unemployed. But when he was in the World Juniors, he had to be the last one off the ice. Remember that? Like, I can't remember who he had that standoff with. It might have been an American guy, but neither one of them would get off the ice. And the Zamboni was on the ice, and they were still on the ice. And it ends up being like, if you have those kind of weird superstitions, it ends up being a little bit OCD, where if you can't do that, like it was with this guy, like if he wasn't the last guy on the ice, then it affected his mental performance. Like he definitely struggled. That was like a trigger for him. So that's one, like when I heard that question, that's one I thought of, was a World Junior former Philadelphia Flyer goalie that I think he had to go in. I might be wrong, but I think he had to join the players, whatever that's called.
Health Resistance Program?
Yeah, Players Assistance Program for, I think, OCD. I think that was he was one of those guys early in his career.
No.
But I can't think of any off the top of my head other than that. I'm sure there's guys that eat like weird food and stuff like that.
Any guys you know of or played with?
No, everyone I played with was pretty normal, all things considered. Or if they did have superstitions, they weren't like obvious. I know mine. I'm not an NHL guy, obviously, but I just have and it's an extensively long routine that just became too much and was exhausting. So like Bruce was saying, it's super. I don't say it's not about superstition. You have superstitions, that's okay, but don't try not to let them develop so that they're easily disrupted and can easily get off your game. Like if your superstition is okay, I have a banana before every game or something, that's an easily controlled variable. Like you can make sure you have enough bananas on hand. But if your routine is like, I need to make sure that I grab a Diet Coke Zero Cherry out of the vending machine and there's a ring that doesn't have it, only Pepsi products, then your day is ruined. Like I've seen superstitions get crazy. Think before you let something develop like that.
Well, again, the thing with any superstition is that it's just a behavior that you try and control that helps settle your nerves. Like that's all it is, right? Like that's what it comes down to, is there's so much out of your control in like a hockey game, even like you're thinking about something simpler like going for a job interview or taking a test at school. Like there's all these parts of that that are out of your control. So like superstitions are a way that you are taking like ownership of that challenging situation to try and make it more palatable, try to make it something that you now have a little bit more agency over. So like Jamie and Derek already said, like I don't have any off the top. Like every player, every person that I play with always does something. Like some people only put their left skate on before their right skate. Is that, superstitions, or is that just like your routine behavior? Like do you always put your same leg in your pants first? Like I don't know. I think I do, but I couldn't tell you. But like again, like you guys already said, I think it's really comes down to, it doesn't matter if they are. There's probably some funny ones that we could all laugh, ha ha, at guys who are making millions of dollars doing it. But at the end of the day, if you're a younger goalie or even, junior in college, take stock of what your pregame behaviors are and see which ones are productive and which ones are, maybe a little silly, but you like to do. And they can be negative, right? They can be a thing. So how can you actually take more ownership of your own preparation that doesn't become a 45-minute routine like Jamie's maybe, or doesn't involve
Way longer than 45 minutes.
well,
I was gonna say 45 minutes. Like,
It literally started the day, is it the second I left my house to go to the rink so if I left the house at 4 and we played at 7, we're talking 3 hours into warm-ups. It was exhausting.
Yeah, that's probably too much, Jamie. Probably should have done that.
It was, man. I never said that I was mentally tough, that's for sure.
my last year of junior, I would chug 2 energy drinks. Now I would love to tell you what they were. I have absolutely no idea. Because
energy drinks around that time, oh my goodness.
So this was 2004, 2005. So I would drive 35 minutes to Punjab Mart in Stony Creek on Centennial Parkway. And I would get these 2 energy drinks that had symbols, and it looked like a Red Bull can, but it was not a Red Bull can. And I could not make up a single word. And I would chug one right before warm up, and then get off warm up, and I would chug one more. That was my routine. And I would spend the next 4 hours after the game curled up in the fetal position with the worst cramps of my entire life. I remember we had a 3-hour bus ride after like a semifinal game 6 win, and all the boys in the back of the bus, and they're just having beers and celebrating. And I'm lying down on the front seat on my side in the most excruciating pain because my superstition was whatever I was putting into my body. So
Just chemical waste. Like that's toxic.
warfare, yeah, toxic. Love the hell up. Dude,
So this is a funny story we can add in. So my only memory of Derek playing, so Derek was still playing when he first started coaching me a little bit. He was playing Hagersville Hawks Junior D hockey, rest in peace, Junior D. And I remember it would have been
OHA Cup champs, baby, OHA Cup champs.
it would have been that year that you won, but my dad brought me to watch you play, and you obviously had the jerseys rolled up to the elbows, good style points. But I remember the fans were nuts at the Hagersville barn. I don't know who you were playing, but it's the away fans. And I just remember you hopped up and were yelling at them over the glass as they were yelling at you. And that's my only memory I have of Boosh playing hockey.
There's like there's a small part of me that like misses what flow hockey and the constant availability of all this access to hockey now has done to like the junior hockey scenes. Like there's like fans are dead. There's some teams still have great fans in small towns, but the average junior fan is like 200 people at a game, probably less.
Oh, some of the best hockey to watch, and you would know this. I don't know if you're still working with the junior C team, but
No.
like junior C hockey, I mean, it is what it is, but it's fun. Like it is fun. You get into a junior C playoff game, and in some of those small rural towns, and everybody is there. Like Elmira Junior B and Stratford Junior B, like they play good. Stratford they will steel barn. Now a new bar now, but like Farmingtown, they pack that place, and it's a pretty good atmosphere. Everyone else is it's like everyone's sitting on their hands, and it's mom and dad and maybe the girlfriend, and that's about it. But it was back then. It was the very quick story. I'll make this very very fast because we're on the junior C topic, and I grew up in small towns. So junior C is
Near and dear to your heart.
it's near and dear. My very first junior C hockey game I ever seen in my life. We just played minor hockey game in Caledonia, Ontario, where I now reside. And they were playing Oswego right after we were playing. So I talked my old man into letting us stay. And the glass back then, so the stands were like kind of elevated and then they went up. And then the glass was only 4-foot glass back then. So like you could literally, if you were a fan, like climb over the glass and be inside the playing surface. No, easily. And they're playing Oswego, and I must have been, I don't know, maybe 9 or 10. So these guys looked like professional hockey players, and they looked like they were in their 30s. And I swear to God, in the middle of warm-up, 3 guys on the Oswego team are wearing no buckets and smoking cigarettes. And the one guy skates by and it was like slap shot, like the stick comes in the air, and now there's a brawl in warm-ups. And me and the guys on my team were kind of at the glass, and I just remember a hand coming over my coat and just ripping me away from the glass. And that's my old man. He's like, "We're leaving." And I'm like, "This is the cutest thing I've ever seen. Why are we leaving?" And he threw me in the car, and I didn't even get through half the warm-up. And I just, it was something out of the Federal League.
Sorry, this is maybe we've lost the plot here, but I got so many good ones from the past couple of years. We're talking permanent police presence at playoff games, like juniors.
I got a good story after.
I'll give you one, and then last year in playoffs, there was a bit of a bad hit in one of the games, not with the team that I was working with, that was involved with. And after the game, the other team's parents were waiting for the coaches of the other team in the parking lot, and they just brawled. The coaches were just brawling parents in the parking lot after like a junior C playing game. And
welcome to the jungle, baby.
And there's something both terrifying and also beautiful about that, Jamie?
When I was in Pembroke, so junior, we were the junior A, but I was in Pembroke. We were playing, we were playing Cornwall in the whatever the championship is for the CCHL. And one of the games we had to come in and we had to leave 2 or 3 hours earlier than we would usually leave. And no one kind of really knew why. And there was like whispers on the bus, but they were like, maybe they just wanted there to be focused. So I didn't know until warm-ups was over. So it turns out the away game prior, one of our players had gotten into an altercation with one of the fans as they were exiting the tunnel. And we played a game at home. The next game, that player, we had to drop him off at the local jail in order to serve a 2 or 3 hour sentence before the police and the Cornwall Colts would accept that he had done his time before the game. And so we had to go 3 hours early to drop him off. And then the bus driver had to go pick him up, brought him back in for warm up. And I didn't know this until the game started. But yeah, I guess the player threw a beer at him, and the guy just grabbed the player and started feet down in the tunnel. And yeah, so junior hockey,
Junior hockey in Ontario, boys. That's awesome.
Let's get to our next superstitions. Yeah. Let's get to the next question.
Hey, this is 100, but it can just be fun too.
Hey, gents, current listener of the podcast. Congrats on the 100 episode. Buddy here of Boujon's. Not sure if I should be admitting that or not. No, just kidding, Bouge. Goaltender growing up, and one of my boys, unfortunately, has followed the footsteps. Question is, moving forward, once you get to like the U14, 15, 16 ages, and these kids want to try to make something of being a goalie, what do you think is their steps for success, or what should they really be emphasizing on to try to achieve their goals? Thanks, guys. Keep up the good work.
Who lost this one?
Ben can take this one.
I can take this one.
I think I'll start simple. I'll let you guys build on it. I think the biggest thing to understand is this is going to look different for where you live in the world, right? So first things first, like those age groups are going to look different depending if you're in Canada, the US, Europe, all sorts of things wherever you're playing. So take these answers with a grain of salt. But I think the first thing as you're getting to those levels is doing like a little bit of self-reflection on how you as a parent or you as a kid, on like how you feel like you are doing right now, right? And if you are happy with how things are going, that in terms of like what you're doing for training, in terms of who you're working with, in terms of where you're playing, uh and kind of just actually doing a real evaluation, because U14, U15, U16 will say that, like, I think that is the ages where it starts getting more serious. Obviously, there's genuine future implications for you at those ages, which is crazy to say because U14 is grade 8, but like that's kind of when it starts on along that pathway, especially in Ontario on the girl side too. So that's what I'd say is take stock of where you're at. Are you happy with how you're training, where you're training, who you're training with? Are you happy with where you're playing, how you're playing? And then I'll let you kind of build on like what you think are those important extra things that people should be doing at that point.
I think you're right. Like you gotta, when you get in those age and that kind of up to that level, you have to make a conscious decision on if it's something you want to do. Because the second you get into U15 and you have parties and you have outside influences and you have girls and you have your first, I said this on Spit and Chicklets, you have girls and you have your first sip of alcohol, priorities sometimes change. So you have to be mature enough to understand if it's something you actually want to do. Because I grew up watching the two of you guys and I could see the decisions you had to make at the times you had to make it. And it was very apparent that coming up through those ranks, like those decisions for you guys were very easy to make because you knew what you wanted. You knew the path you wanted, you knew the end goal, you knew where you wanted to go. And for you guys to make those choices every single day to get where you wanted to go was easy for you. But for 95% of the other guys, it was impossible. And they couldn't make those choices and they didn't get as far as you guys got. And that's okay too. It is what it is. That's life and that's hockey. And we grow up playing this game and we love playing this game. And hopefully when we're done playing, we still are in love with the game. Because it's from U14 into your 20 years. Like if you think hockey's hard now at U10, U11, and U12, like it's not hard yet. Like you wait until it's like, hey, I got this girlfriend who's bugging me because she wants to go for dinner on Friday night, but I got an early morning practice on Saturday and I know I got to get 8 hours sleep. And like, how's that decision going to go for you? All right. That's when things become a little bit more real and the decisions you make are going to affect your performance and affect kind of your life away from the ring too. So that's the biggest thing as I can say is like, and shout out to Ryan Dickey who sent this message, who former OHL goalie and very good goalie coach himself. That's for his son Leo, who's playing Southern Tier AAA U12, very good goalie himself. Those are the decisions that Leo is going to have to make on his own. And there's really nothing that goalie coaches or parents can do to kind of help. We can support, but we can't make him want it, right? That's the big thing.
Tough. Not much to add on that. I agree with both what you're saying. I would say, there's no guarantees, not in any of it. But if you're willing to go all in and make those sacrifices, then in my opinion, it's a worthwhile endeavor, whether you make it or not. I think it's important because you'll learn a lot about yourself, a lot about life. But I think in terms of things that you can put your energy and your money and your time into, trying to be the best athlete you can be and betting on yourself and betting on your health, because it is a sport, it's physical activity, things like that. Betting on yourself is always a great investment. And that's usually what I tell parents. I'm like, when they ask me about their kids, the first thing I say is, well, when they're young, I say, how do they look compared to their peers? Like when you go watch a game, do they look like, are they better or are they a lot worse than the goalies are playing? And then when they want to take it seriously, I'm going to say, I'm going to be there to help guide them, help try to make sure they're making good decisions. But I can't want it for them, and you can't want it for them either. They have to want it for themselves. And you're always going to feel like there's more you're doing, or this training program isn't the best one, or I can always do this, I can always do that. Stay consistent, give it your all, make those hard decisions, try to make the right choices. And when it's all said and done, if it was meant to be and you're willing to put in the work, usually good things happen. You get to your highest level of hockey, whatever that level is.
Yeah, and like I always like that last part too. I know this is hard for people, especially as you play AAA and like or the equivalent level as you get older. But you get to like U15 and U16 AAA, and people think like you're right there, like it's just next level. It's junior. You're gonna play college. You're gonna go pro. You're gonna go in the OH. Like it's hard to say this, but that is still so far away from going farther. Like playing U15, U16 AAA is a huge accomplishment. It's a really cool thing. Like you've clearly worked hard, you've put in the time, and you should be proud of your efforts to make it to that level. But also know that you're not that close. Like
The first time,
you're not.
the first time you play in a mixed age group, you will see the difference.
Yeah.
Like, right, like we grew up playing as, like you're in your age group at the highest level, AAA, AA, in A hockey, you're playing in Ontario, anyways, you're playing in your age group. Not till U18 does it become a mixed age group. And you think it's easy, but wait till you get to a mixed age group. So like juniors, a 4-year span, OHL is a 4-year span. College can be a 10-year span. Like college is a infinite really span, right? So it's until you get into that mixed age group and you think it's hard now. It's like, that's the thing, is like all of these guys, and we all coach guys they're just in a rush to get to junior, right? They're all just like, oh, I finally made it to junior. It's gonna be easy. And then you don't play for a month, and then you get traded, and then you get released, and then you bounce around. And it's like, now all you want is to have the security of playing on a U18 minor hockey team where you're there for the whole year. Like it ain't grass ain't greener on the other side sometimes.
I'm smiling because I was on a podcast last week, and the host P Fry asked like one advice, and I said, you are not in the rush you think you're need to be in. Like if you're ready for junior, you're ready. If you are trying to rush in, you're trying to force it, you are not ready. Because I look at myself, like
I say, yeah, you went from being on one of the top teams in U16 to playing 8 games in junior B the next year.
4 starts, let's go. And they were not good starts.
Got pulled in the first one.
Definitely got pulled in the first one, a 3-3 tie.
3-3 tie. Shout out Welland Junior Canadians.
Yeah, what an organization.
But that's like, yeah, that's, and again, we've said this a lot, and we already said stories about junior C things, but again, and there's again like tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 junior in the US. Like there's a lot of good goalies, like really good goalies playing these leagues who like they're gonna play their junior timeout and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like for every goalie getting into U14, U15, U16, if you live in an area where there's tier 3 junior or junior C, like go out and watch some of those 17, 18-year-olds who are only, they're older, but there's some really great goalies out there who, there's just also 500 better at their age group in North America. Like that's how far those gaps are, right? Like I always said this, like when I was coaching junior C in the area that I live, it's a bit of an awkward location. There's no access to junior B. It's kind of junior A, and there's even not that many junior A teams in the area. So you have junior C rosters that are littered with guys that only played AAA their whole life. From U10 through U18, they only played AAA and they'll play junior C and that's it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but it's just like that's the reality. So planning for U14, U15, U16 is just like, again, are you having fun? Do you want to do this? Do you understand that in order to work hard and be successful, you're not gonna have fun a lot of the time playing too, right? Like in the research that we do, we talk a lot about this idea of what's called like deliberate practice, which is a framework of things that are required of you to do to become an expert at something. And in the original, there's a big debate about this because, like, obviously, some goalie training sessions, which is hard work, are so much fun, but there are so many sessions and practices as a goalie that are not fun, right? So it's hit and miss, but you have to be prepared to that. There's a lot of not fun along your roadmap, so you have to be willing to enjoy that or see the value in the not fun as well. And I think that's important to know.
Next question.
Hi guys, as a current U12 AAA goaltender, I'm wondering what can I do to get better at my puck handling?
Improve puck handling as a U12 goalie.
Well, first of all, have a coach that lets you screw it up. Like
That's the first thing.
that for coaches listening to this, let the boys screw up. Let them eat cake. Let them screw up because they're gonna learn by screwing up. And then in terms of like the physical side, get strong hands. Like I'd shoot pucks. Yeah, practice. Yeah, but I did this, and this was by accident. And I don't know. I'm just kind of like this anecdotal, but for me, it's now gospel. About I don't know 8 years ago, we did a fitness combine for my place, and we tested all of the goalies' grip. And the goalies that had the best grip strength caught the most pucks. They did. And I don't know if it was a correlation, but for 3 combine years in a row, it was consistently the guys that tested with the best grip had the best ability to catch pucks. And so when I say to guys, like, just work on their grip, because definitely having strong hands is going to help you with puck handling. But I also think having really strong hands helps with catching pucks. And it's not because you can close your glove. That's not the thing. And I don't know how it correlates, but it correlated for every single combine we ever did. And I mean, you guys are the science guys. You tell me what's going on.
Well, I mean, like for the shooting side of things, I always show the younger goalies this trick, which is I'll grab their glove, and with their glove I'll just hold on to the stick. Like
I do that too.
paddle. Yeah, that's like the classic. But it's like my conversation is always, you want to shoot better, be able to do this, right? And like I had a really, it's no different. I remember being a kid going training on ice, and like Matt Clark, shout out Matt, and Matt, again, for those listening, know him for a long time, like crazy strong guy, like crazy strong, like used to be able to take slap shots pretty close to 100 miles per hour. And I remember him showing me just like lifting up a 45-pound plate and like a front hold and just holding it for like 30 seconds. And he's like, if you can do that, you'll be able to shoot hard. And it just, at some point, there's just like some physical strength that needs to happen to be able to actually shoot hard. Like it just,
Yeah.
you just,
Outside of the physical strength of like doing grip strength training and shooting a lot of pucks. And if you are shooting pucks right now, probably more pucks than you are currently shooting. When it comes to the practice thing, one thing I tell my goalies, and the upside here is all the coaches I currently work with all are okay with our goalies making mistakes and they want their goalies to play the puck. But I say in practice, especially when you're doing like breakout drills or any sort of drill where there's a dump in, I say, I want you just to make reckless decisions. I want you to go out and play it under circumstances where you normally wouldn't, because I want you to get the confidence to be able to understand, okay, yes, I have time. No, I don't have time. Or I'm under pressure right here. What do I do with it? I have a millisecond to make a move. What am I going forehand? Am I going backhand? I have deep pressure. So I try to force my goalies to get themselves into uncomfortable situations, and most of the time they turn it over and they make bad decisions. But over the course of the season, they start to make better decisions. And then when they make those quote unquote reckless plays, even the decisions they make on that going out to get it on a 2-1, like 2-4, F1 and F2 where force checking them, they end up making a decent play, or they end up splitting those two and going right up the middle and something you would never do. And you're like, okay, cool. Like that's the confidence I want you to have because I just exposed you to a bunch of scenarios where the scoreboard isn't on. And so that's how I get my goalies to kind of break out of that shell in practice.
Also, again, like what Derek said, like coaches and goalies propose this. Play the puck on dump-ins in practice with a forechecker. Like get forechecked in practice, and you will quickly learn what is easy and hard about decision making, and you'll get better at puck handling. And like you'll get scored on. You'll get pickpocketed, you'll turn it over, and you will get scored on. And almost every goalie will go through that at one point in their life.
And we talk about goalies like playing 3-on-3 spring hockey.
Oh my God.
Like, yeah, that's a perfect time to do a lot of puck handling because the game is so quick that there's a lot of loose pucks too that come into your zone. And if you do go play it, like you don't have a lot of time. You're going to have to make quick decisions and you're going to screw it up a lot. But it's summer 3-on-3 league. Who really cares? Go screw up.
Like I remember this too, is when I played junior. Derek was for those who don't know, Derek was my goalie coach in junior. And I had more assists in that year than some of the D on my team. So that's like you can just like again, sometimes it's just risk taking. Like I also turned the puck over a decent amount, but it's just you learn enough. Like you do it enough, you practice enough, you know it's a good risk, you know it's a bad risk. It's also like again, aside from practice, is understanding like always knowing what your safe play is. Like I think that's the biggest thing that stops goalies from playing the puck is they go, well, what happens if I lose it in my feet? Okay, get back to the net. Like don't spin in the circle for 30 seconds trying to find it in your feet. There's things like that, especially with younger goalies, you can communicate to make these quote unquote safer plays outside of just, like go
Exposure to reps at high and under high danger. And, you know,
under pressure.
I have the worst boots when it comes to skating. As much as I love to try to put pressure on the goalies when I dump it in, I'm not a great skater. So get some of those reps in at practice because that's the best time to work on it. All right, new question.
Booge, Jamie, Ben, longtime listener, first time caller. My question is in regards to my 10-year-old girl who is currently playing for U13A this year. She's a pretty proficient skater for her age, very athletic, and overall good goalie for her age group, but is definitely struggling with tracking and catching pucks. She is consistently doing hand-eye drills, uses Sensorina, attends vision clinics, but it still seems like she's definitely struggling when it comes to catching pucks and tracking, even simple clear shots from the blue line that tend to squeak through with no screens or any obstruction in front of her. Now, is this something at that age that she'll eventually improve upon with consistent practice? Is it a genetics thing, or is it time to potentially consider going with soccer full time? Just want to know your thoughts. Thanks, guys.
Like if we don't think that that's coming from an absolute crazy hockey dad, then I don't know what we're doing here. Because that's just nonsense. I mean, it's not. I know it is. But I'll let you guys go because this is a goalie I work with, and I'll tell you the father quite a bit about what I think.
I'll get Masi has a question. Well, I'm gonna ask you a question. Okay, go ahead. Do you ever have this conversation with parents or coaches where they'll tell you about a goal or they'll show you the video of a goal and you'll look at them and you'll say, like, yeah, that's a little kid goal. Like that's just a 10-year-old goal. Like that's the biggest, like a person came down the wing and flicked the puck and they went to hit it and they bounced it off their glove off their head and they kicked it in. Or what like that. I was like, your kid sometimes like falls walking. Like, of course that's gonna happen. Right? Like that's just a gangly, uncoordinated child. Like go watch any youth sport. Go watch a rep baseball or softball game, and like count how many times the shortstop launches the ball into this like fourth bleacher. It's the same thing. It's just like right.
Yeah, my answer is just let your daughter be a goalie. They're gonna make a lot of mistakes. Eventually, it's gonna click or it doesn't. But I'm sure they're not as bad at tracking pucks as you think they are.
This is the part that you guys missed here is she's 10 years old and she's like you 13. I cannot be. She's playing double minor up a level. The reason she can't catch is because she wears a Warrior Junior glove.
You must wear the Warriors, man, because it closes out.
But who cares? You were right. The only benefit to closing your glove is for puck handling. That's the only benefit.
Yeah.
So okay, I'm gonna say that Bouge and I talked about this the other day, but I have a new sort of hot take, a new answer, finally, to what people say.
You can't because we already talked about this on episode 1.
No, this is different. This is I already said after. Derek and I archived a few podcasts. But people say, like, what do you think is the next evolution or adaptation or thing in goaltending? Like the last big thing was the RVH. And I have a suspicion that it's going to be goalies are not going to close their glove because it's going to maximize the amount of coverage. So goalies are just going to continue to get better at just making saves without having to close their glove. Large, pocket sizes are standardized. They're not going to close their glove because when you close it, it makes it smaller. You see those goalies that come in, their gloves are like, they can't open it. They're like little hooks, little captain hooks. They're all just going to be big, and goalies are going to be used to just Henrik Lundqvisting them. And I've seen more than 5 goalies playing high-ish level AAA, like U14 and higher, that don't close their glove to catch pucks. I think that's my suspicion.
You guys are just watching my college tape where I did not close my glove for 3 years straight. And a part of that was that I had a lot of equipment issues when I went to college the first time, like the wrong blocker glove showed up, then the wrong glove. So I was just constantly using like wrong equipment. Long story short, I eventually ended up having to use a practice palm glove in games. Now, if anyone's ever had a practice palm glove before,
Oh, good luck.
I love it, not for games, but just love for practice.
it didn't close. So what would happen is I'd get a shot from the point and my practice palm would put it 16 bleachers out above the glass. It was so beefed up.
The thing is, you can't every break is the right break if you never have to close your glove, right? We can just it's just.
But before we move on to just one thing, I just want to say to the caller, and I put that in quotation marks too, is maybe, just maybe, I'm thinking, if all you do is talk about your daughter not being able to catch pucks all the time, maybe she stresses about that and it's in her head. Just maybe. But I'm just going on a limb here. Like, I don't know anything, but I'm just saying.
I have a quick I have a story and a question. I was working with a goalie who's like kind of the same age. We've worked with her for a little while, and like the first 3 months, like it was like Fruit Ninja, like karate chopping the puck every time it came near her glove. And her parents, who were both lovely people but are super intense, were like, "Why can't she get the puck? Why?" And I was just like, "She's just gonna learn to catch. Like, don't force it. Like, she's just gonna learn to catch, and then learn to catch. Like, just stop caring about it, and let the 9 and 10-year-olds grow up a little bit. And as long as they're watching the puck, and as long as they're like, you got to remember that making contact with the puck is like them requires watching and tracking the puck. Like, it's not like you're that far off, right? It's not like if you're waving at it entirely and missing it and it's going in, okay, maybe there's a bit of a different thing. But I'm sure, and this is what I was going to say, and Derek, you probably have a lot more to talk about this, but did you ever have some goalies who, when they first started out, you were like, oh no, this might be the worst goalie I've ever seen at like X, Y, or Z? One of those. No, Jamie, we know that already. You're not you. He's pointing.
No, I think I created him because he lives in my house. So yes, I do say that all the time.
But the point I was going to say is, you have these goalies who come in and you're like, this is actually, the worst goalie. And then like 3 or 4 years pass and you're like squinting and you're like, wait a second, this goalie's playing AAA, or their girl, and they're playing like the highest level AA. And you're like, wait a second. Like 4 years ago, this was like, I couldn't even watch this person do anything. Like, stuff just takes time sometimes.
I got a question. Now, I'd like statute of limitations, maybe for you guys, but for me, like, who is the worst goalie you've ever trained that has got to a high level?
I'm not gonna say names. I've worked with a lot of goalies over the years. I'm not gonna say names. But there's a couple goalies where like I've worked with where people have been like, yeah, no, that person is never, like, that person should not be playing hockey, and they're like playing junior or high level junior or college or like pretty good places, and came from like the school of goaltending.
Ben, you might remember. You remember Clark Schultz?
Yeah.
Why do I remember that name?
Clark. I think he was born
a couple years younger than me. He was a few years younger than me.
A 99 birth year. So Clark was a horrible goalie, but played 2 or 3 years of AAA, and it was like, oh my God, like ended up quitting hockey, became like a very high level rower and UBC, and like genius, smart kid, but like just loved being a goalie and was a terrible goalie, but big. And like he was a kid, or like you're like, that kid never should have got to AAA, and I was able to help him get to AAA. He wasn't a very good AAA goalie, but he got there, and it was just like, I love Clark, and I'm sure he's never going to listen to this, but he's too busy like out on the lake somewhere rowing and living his life, and probably making millions of dollars as a rocket surgeon now or something.
At least, see, you got to tell. I'm having fun.
My kid trains at a goalie training facility that has a 30 by 70 rink. At times, I start to wonder if the small, tight areas for training are the most beneficial. Tight area drills are great, but I'm starting to be attracted to those goalie coaches who use full ice. Just with seeing how hot these shots are coming in from the top of the circle and blue line area, seems like within the hockey studio it's too tight and small to work on those types of shots. Could you see that being a problem?
Well, one of us was it? Yeah, one of us owns a facility. The other two, I don't know about you, Ben, but I train exclusively on full ice because that's the only thing I have available.
I use varying size ice depending on what we're doing. So
For this, because I always I'll go on for too long.
Okay, I'll go first. I'll go the Ben Boosh. So you should have a combination of both. Most of the small areas, depending on how small your small training facility is. I guess we all trained on ice growing up. That's typically everything kind of in that high slot danger zone area and below. Those are high danger shots. Those are the grade A pluses. Those are the ones that, where you make your money as a goalie. However, if you train exclusively on those, you probably are going to have some problems and when the transitioning into the season, especially after summer training. So making sure that if you are training, a good goalie coach who owns one of these clinics should add in full ice sessions throughout the summer to make sure that you're not basically just becoming robotic at one thing or the other. And then when you transition into practice, making sure you are taking those practice times seriously, because that full ice training, it's just not with your goalie coach full time. So that's my answer.
Yeah, that's like probably the correct, like that is probably the most correct answer. The thing I'm going to put back is, unless like in so much of what you're doing, like even when you're doing goalie coach or goalie sessions on full ice, and everyone, you can always design better drills and maximize space better, but so many drills don't even use the full space of a full ice that you're doing anyway. Like that's the thing that I always default back to whenever I'm I'll say too many weeks in a row of only being on a smaller surface. I'm like, oh, will I kill for an extra little bit of space? And then I get out there and I'm just standing roughly in the same spot. Like I'm like doing things kind of relatively in the same area. I'm like, okay, so is the added bonus being out in the bigger ice that the angles and like the playing surface, it just mimics the game? Yeah, there's probably a little bit of an advantage to that, which is fine. But I think, funny enough, I thought about this question earlier this week because I know we had heard it. And I kept being like, oh, maybe at this age, it's better to be out in the full ice more. And then I kept thinking at every single age, I was like, no, like at every single age, it still makes sense that there's nothing wrong with a smaller training service. In fact, like you're probably going to have a more efficient training session when you're not chasing pucks around the ice, cleaning up the whole time in a full ice rink, which I feel like I spend.
That's why you got to lay the black pads around. So when I miss the net, it hit the pads.
Yeah. Well, look, if you have $14,000 worth of equipment at your rink that you run out of all your stuff out of, then you have the luxury of that.
But why don't you have that? No, but it's just, yes. But at the upside that I do like on the full ice, I mean, you're right, because a lot of the drills could be done in a small area. The difference is obviously I could be a lot wider with things, but I like that I could have my players skate in and step in a little bit more in their shots. That's probably it would say if there's one major upside, it's that where my players can step in, make a move, push pull, which you talked about, and how players are changing the angle so much more. A larger ice surface allows for that little bit more freedom for those players to change their angle without being in confined spaces.
And we do that in the summer. Like in the summer, I spend way more time on a full ice than I do during the season. And I think Derek's going to say the same thing there too. Where it's
Of course I am.
Yeah. So
because you guys, for the most part, bang on. I'm so proud of you guys. Now listen, I'm going to say this, and this might be the fun part. The people who tell you, or the goalie coaches that will actively tell parents, you can't train at a facility, you can't train on a small rink, you can't, are the ones who don't have access to them. And it's because they're using that as a way to recruit you to leave your current goalie coach. And trust me, I've had so much experience with that. Telling me, oh, you can't train there, you can't train there, it's too small. Okay, it's not. Success speaks for itself. I mean, yeah. No, number two, the part that stuck out to me for that person's question was the idea that my son keeps getting better. He's playing AAA hockey, but I see the appeal of bigger goalie coaches doing other things. If your kid is getting better, stop trying to change what's working. Your son is working with a goalie coach that is making him better. Don't go and look for something else if it's working. If your kid is still getting better, then don't stop that. Do what is working until it's not working anymore. And we've all had this where, like, we'll work with a goalie, he'll make U13 AAA team, and then boom, there's like 5 other goalie coaches being like, oh, you got to change. You got to come ski with me. That guy's doing this wrong. That guy's doing this wrong. And then they get that appeal, and they get that, like, they feel important, and then they kind of jump and bounce around goalie coaches. And guess what? All the guys that I've had that happen, they all come back to me. Like, they come back because things aren't working anymore. Or they go and they just see that, okay, like, this guy just recruited me because, boom, I had 3 A's in front of where I played now, and now I'm not playing AA, and they all want to work with me. Don't change what's working. If your kid's getting better, if your kid's getting better on full ice, working with a goalie coach, keep doing that. If your kid's getting better at training at a facility, keep doing that. But you're right, like, training at a facility in season is perfect. Classes are more intense. There's more reps. It's easier to control variables. Any goalie coach worth anything can create scenarios and situations on or in a training facility that are mimicked from full ice stuff. And then nailed it on the head is that when you get to summer, any good goalie coach will have full ice sessions, probably, because they do understand that you need to have both. Like, you do want the full ice, but in season, I don't think you need to go to a full ice goalie coach because you're going to pay more.
No, I
was about to say that.
So
Yeah, because the cost, depending where you are, I mean, the cost of ice where I am fluctuates between $300 to $500 for the hour. And as someone who trains exclusively on full size ice, there are many days where I go, wow, I wish I had small ice. I wish I just had a small ice where I was doing all tight stuff. I didn't need to have the full ice. Like, there's no need for it.
There's like we always have this conversation in the summer where, and again, like, I am so thankful that I get to work with the goalies that I do. Like, we have a great group of men and women and boys and girls we get to work with. It's awesome. I know you guys do too. But we'll have people in the summer who will be like, hey, can I get, like, me and this person semi-private full ice? And we're like, at this rink, sometimes we get that request, and we're like, sure, the price of ice is $348 for summer at 11 a.m.
Yeah,
right?
prime time ice. Yeah.
$350 for ice, and okay, now you want, one. Now you're coach. Now you maybe want shooters. Well, I can't bring shooters. Okay, I got to pay shooters. So now you're looking for that 50 minutes of ice because the flood's going to kick you off, depending on, again, what your goalie coach is charging you. But you're looking at maybe close to $500 to run that 50 minutes ice. Right? That's
Yeah.
Listen, as a goalie dad and someone who deals with goalie parents and hockey parents, is the last thing parents think about is what it's going to cost them.
Yeah.
Like, they really, and then that's where it's like, we got to kind of talk some sense into these people and be like, Like I had people coming from London. So London to Hamilton, for people who don't know, is about 90 minutes.
90 minutes, yeah.
90 minutes. And there's a bunch of goalie coaches kind of probably on the way. But a kid who was playing low-level pro that told me he was spending $340 per training session to skate in London. And I was like, pardon? And he's like, yeah, it wasn't even a private, it's a semi-private. I'm like, $340. And it was with a goalie coach who will remain nameless, but wears a jacket with Ed's blue and charging $340 an hour. And he's like, I went to somebody else and they were charging me $220. I'm like, okay, well, that's a lot cheaper, but it's still crazy. He's like, yeah, but it was only 30 minutes. 30 minutes? $220. So he comes to my training facility and he skates with me in a group of 4, an elite group, and it's $85 an hour. He pays $85 for a class on a training facility or training pad where I bet you he gets, at least 2 times more shots. Now, I'm not saying like the shot quantity is important. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm saying intensity of a lesson is usually a little bit higher in a facility than it is on full ice. And also I don't agree that intensity of a training session is important either. So let's not throw me over the coals for that. But it's just in terms of your return on investment, and for this parent, I mean, the biggest thing that stuck out to me is like, if it's working, don't change anything. Please stop trying to go to a shiny goalie coach because your kid's playing AAA and you think you need to go to a bigger guy with more connections. That's craziness.
So you're telling me that when I was drafted to the OHL and I got a letter personally signed by so-and-so goalie coach, large goalie coach in Ontario, asking me to come trade with him so he could add me on his list of no alumni, that wasn't because he thought I was good? I don't believe it. I just don't believe it.
If he watched you play, he would have known you weren't good.
I don't know who I had this conversation with. Never. Who was the director of scouting for the goalies? Rob Kinamira? Was that OHL?
Rob,
Yeah,
it wasn't for the goalies. He was just like
or just OHL.
Head of Central OHL scouting.
I had a conversation with parents about like how like things our coaches yelled at us, and so our favorite coach that I had in minor midget, and you had Ben in junior. I gave up a goal
for 5 years.
Yeah, Bruges worked for 5 years. I gave up a goal like first shot of the game right off the face-off, step over the blue line, dumped it in, and that's when the head of OHL scouting was there. And I remember just getting ripped apart and how he thought, and he told me I needed glasses. And so my scouting report from this guy just said, needs glasses, can't stop puck. So like it doesn't like none of my unbelievable statistics for the entire year were completely irrelevant because this guy watched one game where I happened to just be chasing butterflies and still played great the rest of the game and won. But the first shot just let it in, and that was it. Game over. Like ruined my stock forever. And then I got shredded apart. That's right. So they were talking about like kids, like, we're 15, 16. We're getting yelled at so bad between periods. But it prepared me for when we're at the junior, and I just got yelled at. And then we're at the college, and I got yelled at again. So I don't know, maybe I'm the common denominator here, but I just got yelled at a lot. And you kind of need to get this hot take. You kind of need to get yelled at sometimes in order to learn how to handle being yelled at, because you're going to get yelled at when you go to junior, and coaches, it's their livelihood. And if you don't perform, they get fired, and they don't eat, and their kids, they don't pay rent or mortgage. So you got to learn. And so sometimes, I think the conversation was about sometimes where kids weren't happy with their coaches because their coaches were too hard on them and they wanted softer coaches or something like that. But I just remember that definitively, him yelling at me all the time.
So I have I would go for that, but I think this might be a good time to wrap up with a kind of like maybe everybody gets 60 seconds for.
I need one question. We did have a listener send in like 6 questions. We're getting one of his questions.
Oh, okay. Hurry.
Hey guys, congratulations on 100 episodes. Is it me, or do true goalie sticks break a lot easier than everybody else's? Thanks, bye.
No.
Oh, I don't know, like, Brandon gets mad when we defame anybody. But
I'll defame.
Yeah, go ahead. The true goalie stick, proportionately the worst goalie stick ever made. It is so unproportionately designed, and I don't know how durability is now, but like I'd say 5-6 years ago, they broke within 28 days. every single time, or like 31 the day after the like whatever.
Oh, like the day after the warranty.
They are the most. If you ever pick one up and you try to like feel it is so badly balanced and misshaped, and it's terrible. Stay away from the True goalie stick. Everything else True is amazing. Please sponsor us.
Jamie, question for you. In, let's say, junior, college even, how many sticks did you go through in a season?
Did not want to use composite until I went pro. So I used wood. So
that's what I'm asking.
And when people say, so CCM, when CCM came out with their CCM Premier 1 stick, least durable stick ever created, and admitted, CCM to their credit, admitted that there was a massive manufacturing problem. Went through 46 sticks one year of their sticks. I actually once took 3 shots, 3 broken sticks. So I had, and this was Manitoba, so broken shot, like stick. The trainers were taping up my sticks during practice in order for me not to run out of sticks because they were so poorly made. I do believe they fixed them, although in my office, I have a wall of broken goalie sticks and player sticks. Majority of the broken goalie sticks are CCM and True.
I was gonna say I was gonna ask you to go back further than that when you were using wood sticks, like in junior.
Oh, my Sherwoods were sweet, man. Those were
like that. That's the point. I would go through again. This was like U16 AAA, prep school, college, junior. Like I would go through those Sherwood 9950s. I would buy 6 for a season, and I would end the season with 4 left. Like 2 of them would be pretty shredded, but like again, I agree. Like I actually think the composite sticks, because again, we've talked this before, the top end stuff is designed for high level performance. So it's going to break easier because it's designed to give you the best performance. That does not mean the most durable performance.
It's designed for guys that get 46 sticks a year like I was getting, because your parents aren't paying for it.
I'm surprised it's the True ones and not. Have you guys had the issues with? I don't know the model. I think it's the Mach, the Bauer that has like the thin outside frame and then the thick back.
I haven't had it. So when that came out as Supreme, that's what I use, and actually, that's not where the sticks break. On that one, they break kind of where the blade meets the paddle.
Yeah, no. I've had so many of our guys and girls have like lost sticks to the paddle exploding, but also where the blade meets the paddle, just like the bottom falling out of it entirely.
Who are the sticks that break in the shaft? There's a company and they break them all in the same. It might be.
Well, it's definitely CCM.
It might be CCM. To you is why, like, you used like they were called the foam core, right? The wooden sticks. Why did you use foam cores for so long, and then why did you switch over?
So let's go back to our first question about superstitions. I actually just really liked how it felt. Like I wasn't. It didn't really matter. Like I had never had issues making saves with my sticks. I wasn't the sickest puck handler at all times, so it just didn't really matter. It felt comfortable. And then when I signed with Winnipeg, Eric Comrie was where he's using composite sticks, and I was like, oh, he's kind of cool. Sure, why not? They're free. And that was really the only reason I switched. And then I just went through so many CCM ones. The Bauer ones have been pretty solid for me. The Warrior ones have been pretty durable. I don't know if it was some of them have a weird like contoured
A lot of them do it now.
I don't like the contoured shaft. Yeah, I don't like that very much. But you can also get this thing. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like basically a little protective sleeve that you can get that covers the shaft of a stick for your practice sticks. So that's above like where you keep your blocker, so it can take more like shots off the shaft without breaking. And I think it's $25. Let me see if I can find it because they don't sponsor the Brits big. It's hard. Yeah.
I mean, I finished my last year playing was 2016. I never used a composite stick. Like I never used one in my entire life as a goalie. Like I just couldn't make the switch. Like I don't know if it wasn't a superstition thing. I just just didn't like them.
There's a couple pro guys that come that I skate with me, and they prefer foam core sticks because they have like arthritis in their hands and in their wrists, and they feel the vibration in the composite sticks aren't good for them, so they use the foam core still. So I have a bunch of them, so I sell them like $50.
Another weird question, but the same vein. What do you guys think about that protocol stick? That thing with like the P whatever,
P28 or
and with the 70
flex. I use one to shoot.
Yeah.
I had a rocket of a shot.
Yeah. It's gonna kill someone.
All they're gonna do is shoot over the glass.
Every time I see a goalie who I know for a fact is not paying for their own sticks, is I go, and especially when it's like U14, U15, U16, I see it and I go, oh no, I'm gonna be the one to break this. Like I'm gonna be the one who's gonna take a shot. I'm gonna shatter the shaft on a shot. And now the parent's gonna kill me for breaking this $500 stick. It's crazy. They snap the puck. I don't think I'd ever use one. So
that product is called a twig cover.
that makes sense.
Sorry, yeah, twig cover. $25 Canadian, and it's just it's a piece of plastic that you can put over. I think it's the same people that make paddle wedge. So shout out them because that's like a pretty good way to save your stick, especially if your sticks typically break in the shafts off shots. So 100 episodes, eh?
Yeah.
100 episodes.
I want to do a quick little, again, 1 minute is all you get. As many stories as you want to fit into 1 minute of all the times coaches yelled at you or did something ridiculous. I've got 3 really good ones. One, I think I've told probably all these over the past 2 years, so the refresher for everyone. One time doing a 5-on-0 power play drill, where I was the goalie against a 5-on-0. A guy went to go double backdoor, fanned on it. I slid, and so I slid across as the puck didn't go back across door, and the guy just put it in 5-on-0, and I got thrown off the ice. Like
gotta make that
straight to the locker room, was asked not to return to practice.
gotta make that save.
College.
I was one. Needs to get through.
That was one.
In junior with the same coach we all worked with, other team dumped the puck in from the far to the ice. It was icing as far as I could tell, and I was counting butterflies like Jamie. So I went and stopped the puck and was like kicking it in my feet, and a guy came out of nowhere and just kicked it, put it right in the net. Intermission, coach just berates me for like 7 minutes. We were down 1-0. We won the game 5-1.
Not only did you get berated, I also got berated for that.
Yeah, my bad, Derek. That's on me. I was just counting butterflies, kicking. I was staring at the empty seats in the stands there. And then my favorite, this is a side note, but it just reminded me. I once was in a game, again, talk about shot counters before. I was once in a junior game where I got scored on a rebound and the shots went down. I lost a shot against after getting scored on a rebound. And those are my 3 quick stories from the past 100 episodes that I've probably told before that I think are fun.
I got one that will stay on the same. We'll stay on the same topic of the one coach that we all worked with. But I was working with the St. Catharines Falcons junior B team in St. Catharines, Ontario. And
is that where St. Catharines?
St. Catharines, Ontario, God's country. And the goalie that was playing was not Ben, but it was his good buddy Jonathan Delario, good friend of the show. And I think in the first period he went like 13 for 13. And so I come down, and I don't always go down, but I went down because I think I had to take a piss. So I come down, and the coach pulls me aside. He's like, "You are doing an unbelievable job. I mean, after this game, I'm going to talk to the executive about getting you a raise because I can't believe how good our goalies are playing." And he's like, "All right." Second period, he gave up 3 on 7. So I came down, and it was, "If you can't teach these idiots how to make a save, then I'm going to find another goalie coach that can." He's like, "He is terrible. Get out of the office." I'm like, "Okay, that happened. That turned real quick." And yeah, that's our good friend, and I love the guy.
The race? Did you get the race?
I did not get the raise. We get fired, and we ended up winning. Yeah, same thing. We won 4-3 in overtime, and then the kid got called up to the OHL, and I got a picture of him stopping Connor McDavid on a breakaway, hanging up in my office.
Hey. My quick stories. Let's see if I can give you 3 rapid fire. First one would be same coach for allowing the goalie partner's parents to be the ones that count shots. So you can imagine how that's going to go. I try to think of ones I haven't told in the pod. Junior, Sheldon Keefe, day after rookie party, the practice after rookie party, doing a 20-minute 3-on-0 drill below the hash marks and me throwing up, him knowing that I was a rookie. And college, Bell Pearson, him making myself and Phoenix Copley watch goalie breakdown and goalie highlights and things to do of other goalies in our league, and telling us we need to play more like other goalies in our league, also in front of the entire team. So those are my quick rapid fire 3.
Jimmy, I know this happened to you, but this is still my favorite, the video one. There's nothing worse than a goalie getting in a bad goal and the coach just rewinding the
Just
clip.
rewind it.
I know.
Well, or like I'll give my foresight where I do the same thing and it's funny because sometimes I won't do this to the goal the same degree, but I'll reference it. But I made a save and it popped out of my glove. But we picked up the puck, broke out of the zone, turned it over at the top of their blue line. Then they came back and they scored 3-on-2. And we rewound that puck popping out of my glove 8 times. And somehow it was my fault because I didn't catch it and get the whistle. Yeah.
So was he wrong? If you caught it, it would have been a whip.
Yeah, but then they would have won the draw and had a set play. They would have scooted. I don't know, man. I don't know.
But rarely do you see the coach hit you with the butterfly effect goal. It's like, it's one thing if the puck hits you in the glove and the play stays in your zone and you get scored on. But then the play like fully reestablishes.
I know. I know. Oh, well. You know what? Hopefully here's to 100 more. Hopefully we can think of 100 more topics to talk about.
I think what we should...
There'll be other stupid things parents do, and there'll be more rule changes. And we comes out.
We have so many. We still have a lot of questions we didn't get to, so that we'll turn those into topics. I'm sure that we'll talk at least 20 more times this year about the NCAA CHL, because that's my favorite thing to talk about.
I was about to say we have at least 6 or 7 more episodes of No Borders in Ontario minor hockey.
Oh yeah, we see how does No Borders play out. I can't wait for it.
Hey, boy, it hasn't even started yet because the OHF is not allowing any tampering, guys.
Yeah,
I heard them. Oh man, guys, if it's against the rules, we can't do it.
This is my parting shot. This is my parting shot. Then I'll let you go. So the rule right now in Ontario is the coaches can't be announced before February 15th. But the associations are allowed to tell the coaches that they're coaching the team as of January 15th. So 1 month before. But those coaches are not allowed to tell anybody. They can be told that they're coaching, but they are just not allowed to let anybody know that they are coaches of that team for next year until February 15th.
Those coaches, I assume, they have a freshly paved driveway, new pool in the backyard.
I think that's nice. I also would like to point out that this past year in Ontario, there was like 4 15 UAA girls coaches who lost their job for tampering. So the tampering watch is on.
Only 4? The other 107 weren't trying hard enough.
Well, I didn't understand how there's teams with people billeting, but that's okay. That's not tampering.
You know what it is? They're just bad for getting caught. That's really what it comes down to.
You're right. Well, everyone, thank you so much if you've made it this far. The 4 of you, thank you so much for listening all the way through this hour-and-a-half episode. We appreciate you. But to everyone who did manage to listen this whole time, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks so much for sending questions. Thanks so much for engaging in the stuff that we put out. I know I'm speaking for all of us when I say that we really enjoy, most importantly, beyond just the topics we talk about, but most importantly, we enjoy talking to people about these topics that we cover here. So we're super thankful to everyone who enjoys it and gets something out of it, and the great conversations and the people we get to speak to along the way. So yeah, hoping for at least a couple more.
And if you see us in rinks and you listen to the pod and you like it and you have any ideas, come up, say hi. It's always great to meet listeners in person because, we just talk the 3 of us to ourselves. So it's nice to know that people on the other end.